Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're excited to have Margaret back with part two. Margaret, thank you so much for coming back to share your different type of journey today.
Thank you.
So, since the last time we spoke, how is the DRC? How is the weather?
No,
How's
it's okay.
work?
Work is good. We've got same challenges, more or less. The weather, it's now dry season, so it's a bit cooler than normal, but still hot. 25 degrees, cooler.
Oh, okay. How are the babies? Are they back in Zim?
The kids are three are in Zim and one is in South Africa in Cape Town. They're okay. They're in school now. The two girls, the boy has just finished writing his exams. He was writing his A-levels in June. So yeah,
Okay.
but they're all okay.
Wow, that's nice. So when I was speaking to you in preparation for this interview, you were complaining about you were having issues with your leg and you had to have your therapy.
So I had an operation on my leg. Maybe let me take you back a bit. In 2022, I had an operation. I was having back problems and leg problems. So at first they thought it was a nerve, a pinched nerve or something. I was sporty in school and I used to play basketball. I was the shortest person in the team. So I hurt my leg when I was playing basketball. So when I started having leg problems, I thought it was that old injury which has come back or because I'm getting old. So when I then I went to South Africa for treatment after many doctors had seen, and then they finally found that I had a tumor on my pelvis, and then they had to operate. So my leg hasn't been 100% since then. I had to learn again to walk, and I'm not yet 100%. There are a lot of things that I can't do, but that's why I had to restart physiotherapy to try and get the legs strong again.
Okay. So when you say they found a tumor, was this, I guess what I'm trying to ask is what type of a tumor is it? Because I understand there's some that are benign, some are malignant. In your case, what type of a tumor was it?
Okay, so I have got cancer in my leg. When I say tumor, I was just so what they discovered, firstly, then it was tumor, obviously. They were trying to then had the biopsy to identify what it was, and then found that it was cancer, and it was actually in my pelvis towards the back, and was putting pressure on a lot of other things. So
Wow.
they cut me up and tried to remove it. And so when they cut me at the time, you know what you do to a drumstick when you're removing a drumstick, the way you cut, that's how they cut. They cut some muscle, they cut some bone to try and reach, but they didn't get all of it. And after that, when I tried to walk again. When I started to try and walk, I had to move around with a belt for a couple of months because things were not stable. They had cut off some bone and muscle. So they're trying to keep everything together. So I had to move around with a belt. And yeah, so I used crutches for some time. And at the moment, I can walk. I walk slowly. I can't run anymore like I used to. I'm not as sporty as I used to because of the leg. But yeah, so that's where we are, and that's why now I'm doing physiotherapy. I can't, it's very difficult to bend the leg, to put lotion, to wear socks, even to wear tackies. I find it very difficult because the leg is not yeah, it doesn't want to do things.
Wow. That was some life-changing news that you got there. So at the time of your diagnosis, how did you receive the news?
So Yeah, let me take you back a bit on how it all evolved. I think, like I said earlier, I had an injury on my leg, and then when it restarted now a couple of years back, I thought maybe I'm getting old, and then my leg started giving me problems, and then my back. So firstly, when you're a lady and you're having back problems, everybody thought it was linked to gynecological problems. And I visited certain gynaes, and in 2021 I had a hysterectomy to try and but it didn't change. I was still having issues. So early 2022, I it became so bad that I was finding it very difficult to walk, and I was finding it yeah, just getting around became very difficult, and it was very painful. So at work, they were making shifts, ladies from work, to try and just help me get around, help me. One would sleep here up to the time I got evacuated. And then when I went to South Africa, they were not sure what was wrong with me. I think through international SOS, they had made appointments with different doctors. I had gastroenterologist who was thought something was wrong with my colon, so they were also checking on that. And then I had visits with a gynecologist because my back was still an issue. And then I had visits with a neurologist because my leg, they thought there was a pinched nerve linked to all that. So I did various surgeries before the real problem was identified, where the MRI, where they said there's a tumor. At that point, they didn't know what kind of a tumor, whether it was going to be malignant or benign or what. So they said, okay. So when I was going for I was going for a surgery when the results actually came to say, okay, so we will need to have another surgery. But because you're already preparing you for surgery, so we'll do it after 2 weeks. Just give your body some few days to recover, and then we go in again. So when after the 2 weeks, I went back to the hospital to have the surgery. At the time, we didn't know what it was, whether it was benign or malignant. But the only thing that kind of frightened me when I got to the hospital, the other times I've been to the hospital, they've taken their time to fill in the forms at reception. Even when I got to the room, to the ward, I actually wished I had carried my laptop to watch some movies. I would sit there. It was taking a bit of time. But this time when I was checking into the hospital, they were rushing around. There were some forms I had to fill in. They actually told me to go to the ward. They were going to follow me with forms. And I was with my cousin then. We were just looking at each other like, can you see the difference? Everybody's running around. So I go to the ward. The lady from the reception, no, it was a gentleman who was following me with the papers. Can you sign here? And they were dressing me. People were helping me. And there's a lady anesthetist who came, and she started explaining to me how it was going to go. And then she started explaining to me how intensive care was going to be like. What is a morphine gun? This is a morphine. And I didn't know. And I didn't know at that point, we did not know. So I was looking at my cousin, like, can you hear what they're saying? And the forms were written malignant, something, something. And I didn't want to read the whole document, but I was just scared. I was asking her, am I reading this wrongly? I Googled, I like, maybe I'm not understanding. Malignant means cancer, right? So anyway, my blood pressure started going up. So when we went to the theater, like theater waiting area, they allowed me to go with my cousin, and we're sitting there. She was sitting there, was lying on the bed. And then the doctor came and said, okay, we realized that where the tumor is a bit complicated. So there's a professor, I can't remember his name, who is going to come in to help with the operation. I'm thinking, what kind of a procedure is this that requires some professor to come in and help? I became really, really agitated about that. So I had the surgery. I went into ICU. I was there for a couple of days, and then after, then I started learning to walk, and then I got out, I was put into the normal ward. The results actually took a bit of time to get out. So I was now in the normal ward, and when the results finally came. And at that time also, for a long time, it had just been me and my daughter. When I was in IC, it was just my daughter. But at that time, one of my other sisters had finally come, and she was there at the hospital. And when they told me the news that your biopsy results have finally come, and it is cancer. And yeah, it was shock. It was shock for everyone, even for me. And at that time, maybe I was in shock, or I don't know what it was, but I just started thinking, okay, how is my daughter going to take all this? I started worrying about my daughter because she had been there, she had seen everything, she had seen all the stresses from day one. And I was now worried about how was she going to manage, how was she going to handle everything. And then I thought about my other kids, when they hear the news, how is it going to impact them? And like I said, my daughter was writing exams, my number 3. So I also started thinking, how is that going to affect her? How is she going to cope with all that? And then my parents, my dad is now 83, my mom is 76, and I'm thinking about these 2 frail old people, thinking, how is all this going to impact them? So those are the people I thought of first. So I just felt like, okay, yeah, I was emotional when they had left, because at the time that I was told the news at the hospital and my sister was still there, I guess I don't know whether I was in shock or I was in denial, but I just like, okay, yeah, and then we continued. But when I was by myself now, I started thinking about all these things, like, what does that mean? Well, am I going to die? Am I going to live to see my kids doing ABC? So it was a shock. It was a big shock for me at the time. But yeah, it was difficult to embrace, especially when I was by myself, when everybody had gone. But the ladies that in the ward it was a 4-bedded ward. So there were 2, I think, yeah, 2 other ladies who were there, and they just came and they were comforting me. And one we're still in contact even up to today. Later, she actually brought me a Bible and some inspirational text that she's given me. So yeah, it was a shock, but we managed at the time.
Yeah, that is life changing. So has that changed like your perspective on life, your goals in any way?
I think what has changed now for me is when I think about doing something, I feel I have to do it, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. So I now make more decisive decisions. Like, if there's something to be done, it has to be done. It just has to be done today. We're not going to wait. There has to be action. And my kids have just been, like I said in part 1, I'm a single mom, and my kids have been a big part of what I do. Every time I'm always worrying about the kids. What does that mean for them? But at the same time, it has just made me realize as well that they're growing up, and they are responsible people. I guess I wouldn't have known if it wasn't that they were put into a very difficult position. So now I'm seeing that they are responsible. I guess all those trainings and all that talking, which we do, pays off at one point, but you don't see it until they actually, I guess life is like a tea bag. You only see what the tea bag actually has when it's put in hot water. So now I think more about what they're going to be, how their life is going to be like. But I also am grateful knowing that they are responsible people, and I had to see that by going through a difficult time. And my perspective around family is, when you're growing up as a big family, you don't really look at the advantages that come with having a big family. But when I was sick is when I realized that, having a big and extended family helps a lot. Because at one point there was always, the family members were rotating. Because I was in South Africa, I spent a lot of time in South Africa. So the family was rotating to make sure that there was always somebody with me every time. So, and my parents had moved to the capital, and one of my sisters had a younger child, and the child was there with my mom, and she came to South Africa, and my cousins, everybody chipped in. There were airfares that needed. Because one thing again, which we realized is that if somebody was coming by bus, they were given less days. So it means that the turnaround time was not all that. They would come and they just have a few days and they would have to go back. So it was better for them to fly in. They were given more time if they flew in than if coming by bus. But then funds were tight. Who was going to pay for that ticket? So you'd find that, my cousins, they were also chipping in, helping on that. So, having a big family has helped and has changed how I see the whole family and what that means for us being such a diverse group of people, has really just opened up my eyes to see what this all means.
Thanks to your big family. Your kids, so your other young kids, how did they handle this and how are they coping since you're still undergoing treatment? How has it been like for them?
Like I said earlier, the kids have been very strong and very supportive. Um, My son is 21 this year, but at the time he was a late teenager. My daughter was writing exams, turned 18 this year, and the last one turned 16 this year. So they're now mature young kids, if I can say. But how they've handled it is what I saw. I know that getting such news is difficult at that age. I mean, it's difficult even for us old people. As old people, I will say that again. But for them, I guess because their older sister had been there with me and she saw how everything had evolved and how I am, she had seen it firsthand. She was there to kind of like give information to the others that okay, we're going through this, we're going to beat it. And they were praying. I know that they were having prayer sessions. Even today, I know, you'll find my son texting me like, have you eaten? Are you sure you should be at work this time? If I say, oh yeah, I'd gone for a walk, he say, those are too many kilometers, but why don't you reduce, the kind of thing. So they have been thrust into this responsible phase, which probably wouldn't have come up at this stage of their lives. Maybe would have taken a longer time, but they've become very responsible. I've seen that they are very responsible now. Maybe it has always been there, but never been given an opportunity to for them to express themselves. Yeah.
So, what has been the most significant change in your life since your diagnosis? If there be any huge changes in your life?
Well, the big changes have been first thing I've been very sporty. I can't do sport anymore like I used to. I can't run. So yeah, you just wake up, you like I can't do all those things that I used to do. I can't stand for too long. Um,
Mhm.
I I used to love wearing high heels. I can't wear heels anymore. So I have made changes with how I eat, what I take in, and how I do certain things. And even at work, like okay, I sit for so many hours, and then I have to minutes or whatever, and then I have to get up. I have to walk around. If I sometimes you get so busy, you forget to get up and walk around. So my back and my leg, they start complaining. So you have to force yourself to remember to get up and walk around. And now I can't just take any off the shelf medicine as well. I have to always consult on my oncologist to say, okay, I've got this, I need to take this. And then he says, no, don't take that, take this. So, there've been changes according, lifestyle changes. But yeah, I'm living with that. Most of the things I'm discovering them as I'm going. There was a time when after I had radiation at the start, after radiation, I didn't know which was the best food to take. I got burnt during radiation, and there were certain foods that were aggravating the burns as well. So I had to learn like what foods should I eat. So all those kind of things have been changes which I've learned to embrace. And the other thing which I've changes that it's about my faith. You know, I think before all this, yes, I used to go to church.
Mhm,
I used to be involved. I used to be somewhat active, but it means a
mm,
different thing to you when you have an illness and you kind of like have to relook at life differently. You have to look at the whole
mm,
faith differently. You have to look at your relationship with God differently. So you have to make a decision to say, okay, so this is I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. You know, how am
mm.
I going to interact with people? Also change. You're not going to hold on to grudges. Life is too short. That's one thing.
Yeah,
So you just take it as it comes and you move with it. And one other thing which has changed, like I said, is I'm more decisive now. If I want to do something, then I do it. I'm not going to sit around and wait. You don't know what tomorrow holds for you. So at one
this is
point,
true.
I thought I had said I wanted to run the marathon, Comrades Marathon in South Africa. I don't know if I will be able to do it, but yeah, I should have done it earlier when I could still do it. So yeah, you know, those are all changes that come. Some of them are not, you know, people would look at it as, probably it's not so significant, but it impacts you because you're used to doing so many other things by yourself, and now you can't do those things. So it's just,
Mm.
yeah, it just makes you feel bad, I guess.
I mean, it is a huge change that you're having to deal with. It's a life-changing diagnosis. So how do you find your joy in this journey?
I wish I could say I stay positive all the time, but that doesn't happen. Maybe others are doing a better job than me. Maybe I don't know. But what I found which helps is you know, finding joy has to be a decision you make. You have to consciously make the decision to be around positive people. And these days, if I think you're not, there's some people that I've kind of like not cut off, but I don't look for them if I think they're not going to say anything positive or put me in a bad space. No, I try to
Yeah.
just avoid those things so that I try to remain focused on positivity. The other thing which I said earlier is, you know, find your faith. The Bible has helped me a lot, you know, during those times where things are not, I'm not feeling too positive. The
Mhm.
Bible has helped me in so many ways because it kind of like picks you up and yeah, sends you to the next stage where you didn't think you had the strength to do that. And the other thing which always helps me to remain positive is when like I say, maybe I'm putting too much credit. When I look at my kids, they give me a certain strength to say, you know, they don't have to go through all this. So as best as I can, I have to remain like push through to try and be there even for a longer time. My parents are there, and I know that you know, me being sick has really has taken a toll on them. So, you know, yeah, there are times where you just want to, you might not be feeling too well, but it's something you can get up. If I can, then I try to get up because yeah, then I think, okay, I can still get up. My dad is over 80 and he can still do things. So yeah, it's given me that kind of like motivation to say, oh yeah, you've got an 80 something year old person who's still doing ABCD. You can do it, you know. And I think one other thing is that we have been brought up not to feel sorry for ourselves. It's just, yeah, there were things that happened when we were growing up. We're not rich or anything, but at the same time, we're content with where we are. So it kind of like makes me, I think that had been ingrained in me. So I look at life and I think, okay, I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. What is going on, you know? Then you move on. Life goes on. And the other thing that makes me positive as well is when I look at the whole family. I know this cancer is yeah, you might say, why me? But when I look at it and I think, okay, when God was looking at this, in Job, when Job was going through what he went through, God actually said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? So it could be God just looking and saying, have you considered my daughter Margaret out there? So what am I doing? What am I showing? Am I living up to that or not? So as much as all these challenges come, you're also thinking about it like, okay, has seen something in me. God was looking at our family, I guess. This is me. I try to rationalize that. I think he was looking at the family and say, okay, so a challenge has to come in this family. Who is the best candidate? And, he looked at the whole family and then he said, here is the best candidate. And when I look at that, I feel like, okay, I think I'm the better candidate in all this. I had good medical insurance, like I was telling you, that I'm getting treatment in South Africa. If it had been any of my siblings or my parents, they probably wouldn't have had that level of medical care. We would have tried, would have sort of some things, because it's treatment is not cheap. I had to pay some co-payments, and you're paying amounts that are not, yeah, most people wouldn't be able to afford that. So you're also looking at that and saying, yeah, I'm the best candidate for all this. So it kind of like just makes you accept and be positive about it and say, if it's not me, then who? I'm the best candidate for this, and then you move ahead.
That's a very different way of looking at it, because a lot of times people do ask that question. I mean, who wouldn't in that situation? Like, why me? But you have a different way of looking at it, and that's very positive.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, when something
So,
comes to you, you kind of like embrace it. You find ways to embrace it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Are there any misconceptions about cancer that you might want to dispel?
Well, first thing I would say, there are different cancers out there. So it's not going to be one glove fits all kind of thing for everybody. And the other thing that I didn't know, which I know now, is there are different treatments as well to cancers. I'm, the TV and movies, when somebody has cancer, the next thing everybody's got a shaved head, and it doesn't happen like that for everybody. So, somebody can be going through cancer and you might not see those signs, like they don't have hair. Yes, it does happen. It's the type of treatment that the person could be getting. So that's one thing to note. And the second thing, I will give myself as an example. I It's not everybody when you're sick that is going to be looking all sickly, lose weight, and I gained weight. I can say I gained weight. I became round, and now I'm all round and all. um, I developed a disease called it was colitis, which is the swelling of the colon. So because I had swelling within my colon, so to bring it down, I had to be on treatment. I had to be on steroids. So steroids had the effect of making me gain weight. So at the same time, when most people would come, they think, okay, we are going to see some scrawny person. I was gaining weight. I was going through the exact opposite. And another thing that I just want to say, when someone has got cancer, they're not trying to be just weak. The emotional things that are going on, even if they're trying to cope with it in other ways, but there's always that emotional toll. Some of the emotional toll comes as a side effect to medication. So you might find somebody gets depressed and they might respond harshly. It's really as a result as well to medical treatment. So be mindful, be patient with the people, and be supportive. It might take time, so, and they need your support, even if it goes a long time. You continuously need your support. So continue to pray for them. Take them to Christ. Like, the Bible talks about those friends who took their relative and threw the roof to Jesus' feet. Take your relative, your friend, to Jesus in prayer, in, even if you're not physically there all the time, but always remember them, and so that God can give them an additional strength, because they will need that. But there are times where you feel like giving up, but yeah, they will continue to, they need the strength to keep fighting.
That is powerful, because I know a lot of people don't know how to handle such news, especially the ones supporting their loved one who is going through this. And a lot of times people can come out overpowering, but they're just trying to show their love. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to show support. So sometimes people end up sort of shying away because they don't know how to approach it. Are there any support groups or networks that are helping you in this journey?
I'm not in any support groups. I haven't joined any support groups personally. I know most people find them helpful. There is one group that I've joined on WhatsApp, but most of the time I find it depressing, yeah, you hear this person has died, this one has died, and it's just
Yeah.
yeah, you're trying to fight on, and then you I think for me, the reason I didn't find it useful, I don't, it's there are times you want to forget. You don't always want to be reminded about the disease. You always don't want to be thinking about it. So I'm not in any support group. I think the support group I am is my family. That is the group which is supporting me. People have recommended various support groups. I haven't joined any yet, because sometimes you don't also want to share things, or
Yeah.
you want to remain. So I find that I've not been a very a sociable person. I guess I'm not. So for me to expose those things in that kind of setting, I don't know if I can do it. Maybe I haven't come to terms with it. Maybe at some point I will join, but at the moment I'm not in any support group.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense because we are all different. We handle things differently. So if, the way that you are handling it is working for you, I think that would be the best for you. Others, they want to be in those spaces where they interact with different people. I forgot to ask you when you were talking about, your back and forth to South Africa for treatment. What treatments are you getting for this type of cancer that you have? What type did you say it was? Skin cancer?
So the type of cancer that I have is melanoma, a type of skin cancer. But what was a bit surprising is that they found the melanoma in my pelvis, in a bone. So they said I was stage 4, because they couldn't find how it had traveled from wherever to be lodged in my bone somewhere, a type of skin cancer. So I was laughing with a colleague, a friend of mine, who was saying, yeah, you're a complicated person. You had to go and choose the most complicated cancer and put it in a complicated place. But anyway, it was, yeah, a lighter moment to all this.
Wow. That sounds like a very rare type of disease for an African, if I
Even
can
for an
say. That
African.
sounds like, I think it's very common in the Caucasian population.
Yes, that's what the doctors actually said. Even that type of melanoma, it's mainly found in Caucasian people. So, I'm getting treated at Donald Gordon Wits University. Actually, it's a case study where they are looking at it and trying to see how it will respond. When I started treatment, they had tried to see whether it was going to respond to chemo, but it wasn't responding to chemo. And now there is a response to immunotherapy, a type of treatment called immunotherapy, which is what I'm currently undergoing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, and like you said earlier, that early detection is always best, no matter what type of disease it is. And now there are lots of treatments out there, even for cancers. So it's always good to get checked, and we all know our bodies. So if we see something that we don't understand, don't just take it for granted that, like you were saying, it might be my age or whatever. It's good to just get checked and get that out of the way. So based on your experience, what advice would you give to someone who might be on the same boat as you, or family members that are supporting a loved one who is going through this same issue as you are?
I guess to fellow patients like me is that yeah, you can beat this. Look at me, I'm nice and round now. You know, I'm still
Yes.
fighting. I don't know how the story is going to end or what is going to be after a year, but let's take each win as a win. That's what it is. As it comes, remain positive. There'll be ups and downs. If you can please remain positive, find your faith, as I always say. It helps you go through some very difficult times and dark sides as well. Find your support structure. If it's family, friends, I don't know, people have got different support structures. They help in a lot of ways. There are times when I couldn't help myself, but there were always people to help me get A, B, C, D, E. There are times now when I was feeling down. So, just check on your friends, people who can check on you. Even for people who are taking care of sick people, check on them constantly, please, and don't leave them. Yes, most of the time people say they're okay, but there'll always be those times when you're not okay. And check on them, and I think linked to medication as well. Sometimes people might sound like they're being rough or rude, or the side effect to medication, which I learned. I had to be conscious, like when I started treatment, like I would say something and then realize that that statement was just too brush, if I can say. So sometimes might not even think about it. So, you find that somebody who has been on treatment for a long time might sound like they're responding harshly to people. And also when you're going through this, run it like you're running a marathon. Don't run it like you're running a cross country. As I always say, like I said earlier, I was sporty growing up. So you'd find that when I never had the speed to run the short, fast races. So, but I had endurance, so I could run the longer races. And I found myself, I was doing cross country, I was on cross country team. But what would happen with the cross country maybe is different now. You would have people who are cheering you as you're starting the race when you're still within the school grounds. And then when you go out, you're by yourself. You're just looking at your challenges that are coming and the runner who is in front of you. And then people start cheering you again when you're at the finishing line. So you've got a long race where you are by yourself. So the reason I say run like you're running a marathon, if you're looking at marathon, you've got different water points along the route. So you've got people who are there to give you water. So be that person who is there to give water, whether it's in prayer, just uplifting somebody, they're going through a difficult time. It's going to be, especially when someone has been sick for a long time, be there for them. I've been lucky. I've had friends, even when I've gone to South Africa, who have been consistent. Yes, the times when I was just when I was going through my mood swings and whatever. Yeah, sometimes that was very difficult. I think trying to look back, I think I was difficult at some point, but they stuck it out with me, and I guess they understood that, you go through that phase and it does happen, and they were there. Stick it up with your relative, pray for them always, and don't leave them, especially when the disease has gone on for a long time. When you're starting, like I say again, linked to the cross country, when you're starting, you're all psyched up and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to beat this, I'm going to beat this. And that's when everybody, you've got the whole family, and you've got friends and family, everybody is there cheering you on. And then kind of like that support kind of like dwindles away and then you're in for the long road. You still got the disease, so you have to keep fighting, and that's where now that additional strength is required to kick in, because you become weary and you start thinking, maybe I'm not going to beat this, and you start feeling like giving up. That's when now you need that additional strength to kick in. You need everybody praying for you. There have been times I have been down where I felt like, it's tough, but all of a sudden I had this additional strength coming, and now I always joke to say, now these are prayers from my parents and my siblings, because by myself, I don't think I could have gotten out of it. But I know there are people out there who are praying, and kind of like gives you that additional strength to push through.
That is so inspiring. I mean, just you being here and sharing your incredible story with our viewers, that is huge. Thank you so much. Thank you, Margaret. So I just have a question about, because when you were talking about, this last part, you were talking about what families can do to help people going through this. What are the things that families, friends should not do?
That's a difficult
Because sometimes people do things thinking they are helping and they are not really helping, because a lot of people don't know what to do.
That's a difficult one. But what I find to be, well, that was a bit of a challenge for me is, when people come to you to say, no, you must try to pray, and I'm thinking, okay, that's all we've been doing from the first day that we have, it's
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, you need to be strong, and I'm thinking, that's all I'm doing. That's trying to be strong,
This is
and
true.
people say this kind of like, I always find it weird. I think now when someone is sick, I actually write it different. When somebody says, get well soon, it's like, I want to get well. It's not like,
Yeah.
now I say, I wish you will get well soon, because like just get well
Yeah.
soon. When I started receiving those messages, it's like, maybe I was too sensitive at the time. I was overthinking it, but some of those things, small things that, we're used to doing. And when it's said to you, you start thinking, it doesn't really sound okay. And now I've kind of like tried to reformulate when I'm writing it to other people as well, because it just doesn't feel okay if somebody says, yeah, get well soon. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do to get well.
You are so right. We don't think about these things that we say because it's been said for so many generations before us. And we say it like it's up to that person to just say, okay, now I'm well. And
yes.
Yeah, that is so true. Is there something you might want to talk about that you feel is important?
Just in closing, what I can say is, to friends, is don't give up the fight. And it can be a long road. It's not easy. We have ups and downs. I have gone through radiation. I've had 2 cycles of radiation. The first one did not work. I actually rang the bell, this kind of thing, ringing the bell that I'm done, but I had to redo it again. I got burnt during radiation, the first one so badly that it took more than a year to recover. I'm still, but you don't give up. You wake up every day and then you say, we have to keep fighting. And family, please, like I said earlier, continue with the support, because when someone is going through a difficult time, they really need support. And so much happens, and sometimes they look like they don't need support or they're being rude. Don't give up on them. Don't give up on them. Just to remain there, even if not physically, in prayers, be with the people. It always helps to be there with the people.
When you were giving your closing remarks, it actually just jogged my memory on something that I actually wanted to ask, that when a person is going through, the journey that you're on, people just look at one thing, the diagnosis that we're talking about. But from what you're saying, there are also a lot of other issues that you're having to deal with. Like you said, you had to deal with a year of healing from the radiation, and there was a point you were on crutches. These are all things that came from that main disease that you're dealing with. And you mentioned depression. There are a lot of other things that you're going through. Can you just share, all these other things that you go through when you are dealing with this particular issue, just so people know that it's not the only thing that you're going through and you were worrying about kids. You still have a job to do. There's so much more other than the diagnosis. Can you just share some of those things?
Oh, good. Look, I can't think of them like but definitely, well, you're worrying about your job, your security, job security. Are you still going to be able to perform like you have been doing all along? And not every organization understands. Again, you're worrying about, is my medical insurance going to cover? The treatments are not cheap. So like I have noticed now, like I said, I'm having to pay co-payment every month that I go to treatment. It's not cheap. And so those are the kind of things that you're looking at. Again, the financial stability of the whole family. What does that mean? Emotions as well. Like I said earlier, depression for me came in. You're trying to deal with this, showing a strong face to everyone, but I think you also need a place where you can just let it all out. Find that place where you don't have to be strong for everyone, where you can be weak. That space where allows you to express your weakness. And if you want to cry, you can actually just bawl your eyes out if you have to, if it helps. So you need that space as well. What I've found for me is being a single mother, and it kind of like forces you to say, okay, I'm going to be strong. I have to be strong for everything, everyone. And so sometimes you forget about yourself. Like I said, when I was diagnosed, the first thing I thought of is my daughter. And I kind of like, there was a bigger problem that I had, but I was already worrying about how my kids were going to look at this, how my family was going to look at this, So those are the kind of things that sometimes as well, when someone is sick, just making sure that you've got the right food in the house, they've got the right food that they are supposed to have. Sometimes you might not have the money. So if you don't go consistently to check on the person and just see what they need, maybe they don't have, you've got to take all this strong medication and stuff. And it's not good to take medication when you haven't eaten. So you might not have the resources. And at some time, especially when the disease has dragged on for a long time, you are really tight on resources,
Yeah.
But most of us, like me, it's not something that you just go about and tell people that, okay, now I'm tight on resources and this. So there has to be that, if people are visiting you, they can see that, okay, there's a need here. So don't stay away to family and friends. Always be with the person and let them know that you love them. Every time. Life is too short. Don't hold on to grudges. Express yourself. Let the person know exactly how you feel, because they need you. They need your support. Yeah, you might think that, okay, yeah, I'm there for them. They know that I care about them or whatever, but they don't know. It would help uplift them knowing you, saying it to them. It will really help. So yeah, these are some of the things. They are very small things. I think there are many books, motivational books and all that will talk about things, but these are small things that can really add value and add to your quality of life, which people don't really talk about all the time.
Thank you so much, Margaret. That is a very touching story. And I hope we can have you back sometime in the future just to give us an update on how everything is going. I mean, you are already an inspiration just seeing how you are handling, this issue that you're having to deal with. I don't want to call it a battle, the diagnosis that you're dealing with, because you're not there looking all like down and pitting on yourself. I think it's going to encourage somebody. It's going to inspire somebody. It's going to give hope to somebody who is in your shoes. So thank you so much for coming here with it's a very personal story, but you are here, you're sharing it, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. If there are others with different stories, every story is different. So if somebody is out there with an inspiring story, this is what this channel is all about. We're here to uplift each other, to encourage each other, and to give hope to somebody. So our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on upcoming episodes. So until next time, thank you so much and God bless.